Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Namasarvebhyo. Pranam to everyone. So today we are doing 3 shlokas from the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. Shlokas number 26, 27 and 28. The Bhagavad-Gita, as we have been discussing, is a book which gives us spiritual knowledge, Adhyatma Vidya. In the first 6 chapters of Gita, Sri Bhagavan introduces the idea that each of us is a Jivatma, a small Amsha of Sri Bhagavan. The Jivatma is bhinna from the Deha. It's different from the body, material body. It has no death. This material body has death, it has transformation, it has vikar, but the Atma is beyond vikar. So each of us is that Atma. And the Atma by its own swarup, by its own intrinsic nature, is full of knowledge and happiness. So discovering our own true nature as being eternal and being knowledgeable, and also having the potential to acquire pure love, prema. This is spiritual life. This is spirituality. Now, the Bhagavad Gita educates us in how to achieve that. In the first 6 chapters, Sri Bhagavan, after introducing this basic concept, also takes us through the path of Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And through those paths, he gives the different aspects of what is called as Chitta Shuddhi and achieving the state of Samadhi, where one realizes oneself, one is able to meditate on oneself as being pure, different from the body, different from this material nature, and so on. From the 7th chapter onwards, Sri Bhagavan begins to talk about himself, and he introduces the idea of bhakti. To be able to practice bhakti, bhakti is superior to karma and jnana, karma yoga and jnana yoga, because in bhakti, one develops a direct relationship with Sri Bhagavan. And so in bhakti, the level of realization, spiritual realization one achieves is higher than what one would achieve if one did only karma yoga followed by jnana yoga or ashtanga yoga. So in order to practice bhakti, there are different streams, and one of the basic things in practicing bhakti is to know about Sri Bhagavan. Whom are we doing bhakti to? Or whose bhakti are we doing? That person. We should know something about him. So he begins the 7th chapter by saying that now hear from me about how you can know me completely, comprehensively, without any doubt, by doing bhakti unto me, by taking my refuge. Okay, so Maya Sakta Manaf Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashrayah Asam Shayam Samagram Mam Yathadhyasya Sitakshunu. After saying this, he then says, I will now reveal the complete knowledge to you in this chapter. And then he says that very few people, Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yatati Siddhaye, Yatatamapi Siddhanam Kaschin Mam Mirti Tatvataha. Among thousands of human beings, only one endeavors for the truth. And among those who endeavor for the truth, hardly one knows me in truth. And after saying that, he starts revealing different aspects about himself, how this nature is a part of him. He has 2 natures. One is the inferior nature, which is this Jada Prakriti, and the superior nature, which is the Para Prakriti or the Jivatma, and then about himself as well. And subsequently, he talks about the 3 gunas of Prakriti, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, and how he is above them. The Jivatma in this samsara is conditioned by those 3 gunas, but Sri Bhagavan, he is not conditioned by them. He is above them. He is their master. So in this way, Sri Bhagavan reveals step by step about himself, different aspects about himself. And eventually, in the last class, the last 2 sessions, we saw different things. I'm going to just do a very brief recap of the last 6 shlokas that we went through which happened in the last session. First 4 shlokas, Kamaistaisya Hrita Jnanaha Prapadyante Anya Devataha Tam Tam Niyamamastaya Prakritya Niyata Swaya Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha shraddhayarchitum icchati tasya tasya achalam shraddham tameva vidadhamyaham sataya shraddhaya yuktas tasya aradhanamihate labhate cha tatah kaman mayeva vihitan hitan antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavati alpamedhasam devan devayajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamati. So earlier, just before these four shlokas, he had talked about four types of people who do not take his refuge. Namam dushkritano mudaha prapadyante naradama. If you remember that, he says that these four types of people, they have, even though they are educated and potentially can know about me, but they refuse to accept me as I am for different reasons. And then he talks about four types of people in the 16th shloka who actually take his refuge. And they are the Artho, Jigyasu, Arthati, Jnani cha Bharatarshava. The Artha, one who is in distress, Jigyasu, one who is curious, inquisitive, Artharthi, one who is desirous of material returns, material prosperity, and finally Jnani. Jnani is the one who seeks eternal association of Sri Bhagavan in Mukti, Mukti in the eternal association of Sri Bhagavan. So then he says, after that, that this Jnani is the one who is extremely dear to me, because Eka Bhaktir Vishishyate, he performs one-pointed, single-pointed bhakti to me, and therefore he becomes very dear to me. He's like my own Atma, right? And after saying that, he distinguishes between himself, the bhakti towards him, and those who perform bhakti towards other devatas in these four shlokas. So he says that driven by different material desires, people worship other devatas because they think that they can quickly achieve those desires by worshipping those devatas. But whatever faith they develop in those devatas actually is given by me only, because I am the Antaryami. I sit as the Paramatma. That Shraddha, that conviction in that devata is not given by that devata, it's given by me. And the phala, after doing all the bhakti or whatever Shraddha, whatever seva, upasana for that devata, whatever phalam that comes, whatever fruit comes out of that, that is also given by me only, not by that devata, right? So then he says, finally, the fourth shloka here, 23rd shloka of the 7th chapter, he says that antavattu phalam tesham, those fruits that they get by worshipping other devatas, they are very temporary. They get that, and we should know clearly that devan devayajo yanti, those who worship the devas, they will eventually go to those devas. Of course, provided that they do it properly, they follow the niyam of that devata properly, then they will go eventually to that devata. But those who worship me, mad bhaktaha yanti mamapi, they will come to me. So he makes a distinction there. And then he finally points out that a lot of people, avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyante mam abhuddhayaha, param bhavam ajananto mama vyayam anuttamam. They don't know my superior nature. So they just make statements about me that what is there? Bhagavan is just an imagination. It's just some power. There's some supreme power. And what we call as Krishna, Rama, they're just some great personalities who take a form. This form actually, some people say, is just imaginary. We just imagine because we can't meditate on something that is formless. So in order to meditate on something, we need a form. And therefore we imagine a beautiful form like Krishna. We say beautiful Krishna standing with a flute, or some Rama with good qualities. We create a thing like that. It's all created by man. And we worship so that we can. So he condemns that philosophy here. He says that the unintelligent people think of me like that, that which is unmanifest but acquires an individuality, Vaktimapannam, not knowing my superior existence, which is imperishable. It is not that temporarily it comes and goes. It is always like that. If you see me as Krishna, then Krishna is always existing. That me is always existing. And it's unsurpassed. There is nothing superior to that nature. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samahita. So why is it that people think like that? The answer is here. Naham prakasha. I am not visible to everyone because yogamaya samavritaha. My yogamaya. So there are two types of maya. One is called mahamaya. That is this bahiranga shakti, external shakti, which keeps the jivatmas like us in illusion, which makes us think that this world is a place for our eternal enjoyment. And there is yogamaya. That's this antaranga shakti, which prevents even the great people who are trying to see him from actually seeing and understanding him. So it's like a curtain. Just like if you go to a theater, then at least before the show begins, the actors are all covered by a curtain. You can't see them. They're all behind the curtain. Then the curtain opens and then you see all the actors. So similarly, there is a curtain which is separating me from these people, and that is called my yogamaya. Mudhoyam nabijanati. The foolish person does not know this. You don't know that I am unborn and I am avyaya, means I don't perish. There's no perishing or ending for me. So having said this, then he says, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. Veda, this is a verb in Sanskrit. So with dhatu, Veda means to know. Veda aham, I know samatitani. All things happened in the past, but here specifically samatitani is an adjective of bhutani. Bhutam bhute bhutani means living beings. Samatitani bhutani, all the living beings which were living in the past. Vartamanani, which are living in the present. Arjuna or Arjuna. Bhavishyani, those living beings which will live in the future. I know all of them. Those who lived in the past, those who are living at present, those who are going to live in the future. But Mam tu Vedana Kaschana. No one knows me. Mam tu Vedana Kaschana. So I know all living beings of the past, the present, and the future, but no one knows me. So how does Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti explain this? So he says, Kincha Mayayaha swashraya vyamohakatva bhavat bahiranga maya antaranga yoga maya cha mama jnanam na avranoti ityaha veda ahamiti. Because Maya has taken my refuge. So she is under me. She cannot cover me. She cannot delude me. The jivatmas are below her. So she can delude the jivatmas. She can fool them, but she cannot fool me. And because of this reason, I can know everything. The jivatmas cannot. Mam tu kaschana prakritaha aprakritascha. So prakrita means that which is, say, in this material world, which belongs to this prakriti, and aprakrita, which is beyond this material world. Kaschana, both the nitya muktas as well as the baddhas, nitya baddhas. Loko, maharudradi mahasarvagyopi. Say the highest form of Shiva, Maharudra. Okay, he is very knowledgeable. Shiva is highly knowledgeable, a highly worshipable personality. He is Mahasarvagya. He knows everything. But even then, na katsniyana Veda means even he does not understand me completely. Yatha yogam mayaya, yoga mayaya cha jnanavaranat iti bhava. Because my yoga maya is covering me like a curtain. And because of that, even the greatest personalities whom you know cannot understand me. Sri Baladeva explains like this. He says, you can raise a doubt on what he said in the 25th shloka. Nanu mayaya vritatvat tava jivavat agyata pattiriti chetu tatraha vedahamiti. Says, because you said in the 25th shloka that you are covered by yoga maya, that means you are also like a jivatma. Just like maya is covering the jivatmas, maya is covering you also. Says no, to remove that doubt, he is speaking this shloka. Where he says that yoga maya, when I say yoga maya is covering me, it is not that I am becoming subordinate to her. She is covering me in the sense that she is preventing you from seeing me. Not that she is making me subordinate to her. She is coming in between you and me, that's all. But she is not preventing me from seeing you. I can know you, but you cannot know me. Nahi mad adhinaya, mat tejasa abhibhutaya. She is my adhina. And she is mat tejasa abhibhutaya. She is subdued. So she is overwhelmed by my tejas, my effulgence, my brightness, my luminescence. She is, or tejas can also mean my prowess. She is abhibhuta, means she is subordinate to that. She is overwhelmed or subdued by that. Durataha, she stands at a distance from me. Javanikaya eva. She is like a javanika, means a curtain. Eva, mam seva manaya. She is doing my service. She is serving me. Mayaya, seva manaya mayaya, mama kachit vikritihi ityartaha. Na kachit. This na should be brought here. Na kachit vikritihi. There is no transformation in me. This vikriti happens in the jivatma. Vikara, vikriti happens in the jivatma's body, not in the jivatma itself, but in the body of the jivatma in this world. And so we are under the illusion that we think that, okay, now I have become a big man, I've become a strong man, I've become weak, etc. Right? Or I've become old, I've become young. But actually, the jivatma has no young, old, strong, weak. The jivatma is only the jivatma, pure, shuddha jivatma. Mam tu Veda iti mat jnani kotishvapi sudurlabha ityartha. So even a person who knows me to some extent is very rare among crores of people. Among kotishvapi sudurlabha. Among crores of people also, such a person who knows me to some extent is also very rare. Having said this, Sri Bhagavan goes forward. He says, why is it like this? Ichchadvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. Says Ichchadvesha. Why is the Jivatma in this kind of condition? Because Ichcha, desire, the desire to enjoy the senses. And Dvesha. Dvesha means hatred. Ichcha and Dvesha, samuttena, samudbhavena, means through the rising or through the increase of that, or through the generation of that. Through the generation of desire and hatred, Dvandva moha. Dvandva is an important concept in Vedanta philosophy. Dvandva means the conception of dualities. Okay, so in this world, when we live in this world, we're always under the conception of duality, like this person is my friend, this person is my enemy. This is a good person, this is a bad person. This is a male, this is a female, right? This person or he is very intelligent, he is very stupid. This is very pleasurable, this is very painful. So this dvandva, we're always caught in dvandva. We're running from one to the other. We want to have one, we want to avoid the other. So this is called dvandva moha. Okay? A person who is spiritually realized, who has got spiritual knowledge, is beyond this dvandva moha. He is equally disposed towards every person, every living being. He doesn't look at a living being as he is my friend, he is my enemy. Okay? He may recognize goodness in some person, he may recognize wickedness in the other person. He's not foolish. But at the same time, he doesn't say that, okay, just because this person did me a favor or spoke good things about me, he becomes my friend. Or this person, he cheated me, so he's my enemy. This person spoke harshly about me, he's my enemy. This kind of feeling is not there in the mind of someone who's spiritually elevated, who's spiritually purified. And because of that reason, he is always experiencing a sense of happiness within himself. But the normal Jivatma in this samsara does not experience that. He is under the influence of iccha and dvesha. Sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti param. Sarge means at the time of creation, all living beings experience and they therefore end up in this material creation. It says, O Bharata, O Parantapa, owing to the delusion of the duality that arises from desire, iccha, and hatred, dvesha, all living beings are bewildered since the start of material creation. So in the Sarartha Varshini Tika, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Tan Mayaya Jivaha Kadarabhya Muhyanti Ityapekshayamaha Ichchahiti. The question is, since when are the Jivatmas under this kind of delusion? Since when are they not able to know you? Says, since the beginning of creation. Sarge, Jagat Srishtyarambhakale, Sarva Bhutani, Sarve Jivaha Sammohanti. Kena, by what? Prachina karmodbuddhao, because of their own past karma. They have been since anadikala, since beginninglessness. We have been in the samsara and constantly we have been engaging in different types of karma. So that karma phala, punya papa, that keeps us here. Yavat iccha dvesha, and our karma is under the influence of iccha and dvesha, desire and hatred. We like something, we hate something. Indriyanam anukule vishaye iccha. What is pleasing to our senses, we desire that. Abhilashaha. Pratikule dveshaha. Whatever is not pleasing to us, whatever is uncomfortable, we hate that thing. We go away from that thing. Tabhyam samuttama samudbhuto yo dvandva. And because of this reason, we are caught up in this dvandva, in this duality. Mana apamana yoho. Shitoshnadyoho. Mana apamana yoho. Mana means respect. Apamana means insult. Sukha dukkha yoho. Pleasing situations, displeasing situations. Stri pumsa yoho. Towards female and male, we treat them differently. We look at them differently. Aham sammanitaha sukhi. When I am respected, when I am honored, I am very happy. Aham avamanito dukkhi. When I am insulted or I perceive insult, then I become very unhappy. Mama iyam stri. This is my woman. Mama, I am Purusha. A woman will think this is my man, this is my guy. Ityadi akarakaha avidyako yo moha. The moha, the illusion, which is of this nature, this form. Okay? The illusion takes this form. Avidyako means since the beginning, since eternal beginning, sammoham. Moha tena sammoham. Due to this illusion, there is this delusion. Stri putradishu atyanta asaktim prapnuvanti. Stri putradishu atyanta asaktim prapnuvanti. One develops a very deep attachment towards one's own wife or husband and towards one's children, putradishu. That asakti one develops because of this reason, because one's own people may treat one well. One's people of other families may not treat one well, whatever reason. Atayeva atyanta asaktanam na bhakta adhikaraha. Now, when somebody is under that extreme asakti or attachment, then there is no eligibility to do my bhakti. To do my bhakti, one should be able to rise above this. Yad uddhavam prati mayeva vakshyate. In the Bhagavatam, I have spoken, I mean, Sri Krishna has spoken to Uddhava. In the Bhagavatam, there is a portion, it's called Uddhava-gita. There's a conversation between Krishna and Uddhava. He says, Yadrichaya mat kathadav jata shaddastu yav puman. By some yadricha means something that happens accidentally or by its own accord, without a plan. Yadrichaya, by some accidental, by chance, mat kathadav, somebody becomes attracted to my narrations, my narratives, my stories, and jata shraddha, he develops a conviction that I exist and there is something attractive about me, of Puman, that person. Na nirvinno nati sakto. Person nirvinna means one who is under fear or dejection, depression, whose mind is confused, feeling weak, depressed. Na atisakta, one who's, so na nirvinna means one who is not like that. Na atisakta, one who is not deeply attached, such a person. Bhakti yogosya siddhidaha. Such a person only will get siddhi or success in the path of bhakti. So in order to really do bhakti, one should be able to go above, transcend the dvandva of this material existence that we just read about. This is how Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti explains this shloka. The next shloka, and the third one for today, Sri Bhagavan says, Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmuktaha bhajante mam dhradavrataha. So it's Yesham, of those people, to antagatam papam, those whose sinful activities, papam, antagatam, means has reached or have reached towards the end. They have stopped doing or almost stopped doing all their sinful activities. Jananam punya karmanam, those who have started doing punya, those who have started doing pious activities. They, such people, dvandva moha nirmuktaha, they are freed from dvandva moha. Dvandva moha nirmuktaha. Bhajante mam dhradavrataha. They worship me or they do my seva with firm, dhradavrataha means with firm conviction or firm commitment, a devoted commitment. Okay. So they whose sinful activities, papa, have ended, who perform pious activities, punya karma, and who have been freed from the delusion of duality, perform my bhakti with firm commitment. Okay. Here, the explanation is very interesting in Sararthavashin. He says, Tarhi kesham bhakta vadikaraha ityataha. Yesham punya karmanam papam tvantam gatam antakalam praptam nashyadavastam natu samyak nashtam ityartaha. He says that those who have stopped doing their sinful kind of activities and they have not necessarily become completely free from sin, but they have stopped doing and they are almost at the end of becoming completely free from it, even though they may not be completely free from it. Tesham sattva guna udreke. When such a thing happens, sattva guna becomes more in them. Okay, so we have discussed this earlier, how these three gunas act upon us. And sattva guna is favorable for doing punya, or when one does punya and comes out of papa, then one's sattva guna increases, one becomes more sattvic. Sattva guna udreke sati, tamo guna kharasa. Because we said the three gunas always compete for superiority. So when sattva guna goes up in somebody, then tamo guna comes down. Tasmin sati, when that happens, tat karyo moha rupai, the influence of tamoguna, which is moha, api hrasati. That moha comes down. Okay, moha hrase sati. When moha comes down, te khala vat kalavatya sakti rahitaha. Kalavatya sakti rahitaha means that is the like a wicked person. Okay, asakti rahitaha, or like I wouldn't say wicked person, a person who is deviant, person who is not properly fixed. Okay, khalavatya sakti rahitaha yadrichika madbhakta sangena bhajante matram. So at that point of time, if somebody gets yadrichika, what do you call, by chance, if somebody gets the association of my bhakta, madbhakta sangena bhajante matram, yetu भजनाद्यभ्यासतः सम्यक् नष्टपापाः ते मोहेन निःशेषेण मुक्ताः दृढव्रताः प्राप्तनिष्ठाः सन्तः मां भजन्ते. By doing my bhajan, one whose papa is completely destroyed, samyak nashta papaha, mohena nisheshena muktaha. Such a person only will be completely free from the illusion of this world. Mohena nisheshena muktaha means without remainder, comprehensively free from the illusion of this world. Dridhavrataha praptanishtaha santaha. He becomes really fixed in my bhakti. Then nothing can shake that person. Nachaivam punya karmaiva sarva vidaya bhaktehe karanamiti mantavyam. So he points out that even though this shloka is talking about punya karmanam, and is connecting this same shloka is also telling about bhajante mam dridhavrataha. This is merely by performing punya karma. Okay? Punya karma means what? Doing something good that is pleasing to Sri Bhagavan, which is in accordance with the Shastra, which is in accordance with Dharma. That is called punya karma. For example, let us say that you do a vrata. Okay, you do the Ekadashi vrata, for example. That will give you a lot of punya. Okay, or you do something good. Let's say that somebody is suffering and you go and help them. You don't have to help them, but you go out of your way and you help them. Okay, that is punya. That's actually dharma. Helping other people when they are suffering. Let's say that there are some children who are starving and you go feed them. You give them a way by which they can also grow properly. You show them some path. So by doing punya, one comes to more and more sattva guna. But here, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti points out that merely by doing punya, one is not guaranteed that they will get bhakti. Bhakti comes in a different category. Bhakti comes when a bhakta, he feels that compassion that you should get bhakti. You should also become attached to Krishna, or Krishna feels that compassion. Sri Bhagavan sees you with the eye of compassion. At that point of time, bhakti develops in the heart. The seed of bhakti is planted. Okay, nachaivam punya karmaiva sarva vidhaya bhaktehe karanam. So bhakti is not an outcome of punya karma. Yam na yogena sankhyena danavrata tapodhvaraihi vyakhya swadhyaya sanyasaihi prapnuyat yatnavanapi. So all these things like Ashtanga Yoga, Sankhya means analytical study, Dana by doing Dan, Vrata, different types of vratas, Tapaha, Tapasya, Adhvaraihi, Yajnas, Vyakhya Swadhyaya by studying very deep philosophical commentaries of different scholars, Sanyasaihi by Sanyasa. By all this, just by doing all this, one does not get bhakti. Prapnuyat yatnavanapi. Na prapnuyat. This na should come here. Na prapnuyati yatnavanapi. Iti Bhagavad-gi. This is from the Bhagavata Purana. This place, cited from here. Kevala bhakti yogasya punyadi karmashrayam naiva karanam iti bahushah pratipadanat. So he says that in many places in the Shastra, it is clearly explained that just by doing punya karma, one cannot develop bhakti. Okay, so I want you to see, many of you are research scholars, how these scholars, our traditional scholars also, when they are giving an explanation of something, they refer to other literature. They do a thorough literature review and they cite from the literature. Right? It is not just their opinion. They have studied the works of other scholars before them and they cite from them. And they build their arguments based on that. And finally, we will look at Sri Baladeva's explanation also, which is very brief. He says, Nanu keshanchit tvad bhakti pratiyate sanasyate sarva bhutani sarge sammoham yanti iti yuktehe iti chete. Says that it may look like the way you said in the earlier shloka that, because of dvandva moha, iccha dvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata. Because of that, all the living beings, they come into this material existence and they are caught up in the dvandva moha. It looks like nobody has any hope now. There is no there's no chance of their getting bhakti. No, that's not true. In this shloka, Sri Bhagavan clarifies that no, there is a hope for getting bhakti. He says, Yesham pranina yadrichika mahattama drishtipatatu papam antagatam nasham praptam abhut Vishnoho bhutani bhutanam pavanaya charantihi. He again, just like Vishwanath Chakravarti said, he agrees with him. He says that by yadrichika mahattama drishtipata, by some chance, some great personality. Okay, I'm going to now tell you a story also. A great personality by chances upon you or chances upon that person. And drishtipata means he glances at him. Glances in figuratively means that he feels that compassion that may this person be delivered. He's suffering so much. May he be delivered from this suffering. At that point of time, the seed for bhakti is planted. Okay, so he says, Nasham praptam abhuta, Vishnoho bhutani. This is from Bhagavatam again. He says, Vishnoho bhutani, the people of Vishnu, Vishnu Janas, or the bhaktas of Vishnu, bhutanam pavanaya, for purification of other living beings, charantihi, they are always wandering on this earth. Tismritehe. Idrishanam ityaha punya iti. Punyam manogyam karma. What is meant by punya? Manogyam karma, that which is very pleasing to the mind, or that which is desirable. Activities which are desirable are called punya. Mahattama vikshana rupam, yesham punyam tu charvapi ityamaraha. Amarakosha. Amarakosha is a thesaurus in Sanskrit. He is giving the synonyms for the word punya, how it's explained there. Te dridavvrataha, mahat prasanga praptanishtaha, dvandva mohena nirmuktaha, mahattatvagyaha, mattatvagyaha santaha, mam bhajante. So by the blessings of a great personality, a great bhakta of mine, such a person, he develops an interest in me, and then he starts knowing about me, mattatvagya. He becomes knowledgeable about me, he knows about my nature, and then he starts performing my bhakti. Okay, so there is this very interesting story of the sage known as Valmiki. Okay, I heard about Valmiki, and I was looking for the Shastrik Pramana for Valmiki. Where do we know about Valmiki from? Of course, Ramayana is there, his own Ramayana, which he has written. And we know the story of how Valmiki became Valmiki, right? Before that, he was a robber and all that. So I was searching, and I found a story in the Skanda Purana. The Skanda Purana story goes something like this, that there's a great Brahmana. And the Brahmana is a very, very pious Brahman. He's serving his parents. He's taking care of his parents, and he's taking care of his family. He's got a very faithful wife, a pativrata. He's got good children, etc. But unfortunately, in that place where he's staying, there is a great famine. And the famine is for very long, for 12 continuous years. There's a famine. And everybody is starving. There's nothing to eat. So in his house also, he's not able to feed his dependents. So he becomes very desperate, and finally he doesn't know what to do. One day he leaves his house. He's just wandering, thinking, what do I do? How do I get something for my family to eat? And at that point of time, he sees an elderly woman. She's walking with a sack of vegetables. From somewhere she's got some vegetables. She's walking with that. So out of desperation, he goes and attacks that woman, and he takes away some of her vegetables and comes back and gives it to his family. Immediately his family, they are happy. They eat the vegetables and they get some relief from it. So from that point, he gets an idea that this could be a way by which I can solve some of my family's problems. So he turns into a robber, and he goes and stands in some places and robs people, whatever they have, and starts relieving his family. And suddenly one day, when he's doing that, the great Sapta Rishis, we've heard of the seven great Sapta Rishis, right? So they are led by the sage called Marichi. So the Sapta Rishis are walking on that path where he's standing. And so he pounces on them. He attacks them, and he says that right now, I'm going to kill all of you. Just hand over whatever you have to me. So because they are great Rishis, they don't get scared by him. So they stand there and they say that, look, you look like a Brahmana, but what do you think you're doing? You're just jumping on us, you're talking like this. He says, there's a conversation. I won't go into the details, but in that conversation, he starts speaking very rudely, more and more rudely with them, threatening them that if you continue this conversation, I'm going to kill all of you. And they become, they become more and more compassionate upon him. They being sages, they are not scared by him. They are very compassionate. And they decide that, they say that, you can do whatever you like, but we'll just ask you one question, that what you do now will give you enormous amount of pap, and you will suffer a lot later on in your existence. In your next life, in future lives, you will suffer a lot. Okay, so please listen to us. We'll ask you one question, and you find out the answer for that, and then we'll give you whatever we have, and the matter is resolved. Go back to your family and ask them. You're doing all this for your family. Just ask them whether they will take a share of whatever path that you're getting out of all this. Okay, just ask them and give us the answer. We'll wait here. Okay, so he says that, okay, don't go away anywhere. Please wait here. I'll find out and come. Okay, so he has that level of simplicity in him. Okay, normally you tell any thief like that, he's not going to listen to you, right? If you go on talking like this, he'll just shoot you and take whatever you have and go. But this person, he's got something in him, maybe because of the piety he had done earlier as a Brahmana. So that makes him actually go and find out. So he goes and finds out, and he first goes to his father. This is a Skanda Purana story from the Skanda Purana. And his father says that, look, when you were a child, I also did similar things. I also I did some good things, and I did some bad things also. And I knew that whatever good things I do, I get the punya. Whatever bad things I did, I get the papa. My children or my wife won't get it. I will have to take everything. Whatever I do, I reap the good or bad out of that. So which means whatever you're doing now, you will get all the pap for it. He will not get anything. Then he goes to his mother, and his mother gives him exactly the same answer. He goes to his wife, and wife gives him also the same answer. So then he's like, okay, now the entire pap only I have to take. So he goes back and tells them, look, now I know what you guys are doing, what you guys are telling me, and I'm really sorry. I've hurt you, and I don't want to take this pap. Please give me some way out of it. Then one of the 7 rishis, his name is Pulaha Rishi. So he tells him, okay, look, I'm going to give you a mantra, and just chant this mantra. You will become free from all your papa. So he gives him some particular mantra. Okay, that mantra's name is given in the Skanda Purana. He gives him that mantra. He says, sit and chant this mantra. Everything will become all right. So he sits in that place in the site, and he starts chanting that. He very sincerely chants it. And as he sincerely chants it, these sages have gone from there now. They are no longer there. And as he is chanting it, because of his intensity, he goes into a state of samadhi. In that state of samadhi, he becomes completely oblivious to the external world, and an anthill grows around him. An anthill in Sanskrit is called Valmika. So because the anthill grows around him, he gets the name Valmiki. And much later, so he remains like that in that Valmika, in that anthill, and he's in samadhi, completely lost in that mantra, and all his path is destroyed. He becomes very pure. He reaches a very high state of consciousness, very high state of sattva guna. And as he's in that state, he's fully absorbed in that. These sages come there again. They're passing by the same route, and at that time they remember the incident, and this incident happened when we last came here, and they wonder what happened to that guy. And they can then, as they're walking there, they can hear somebody chanting that mantra which was given last time. They look around and they see that the sound is coming from an anthill. They go to that anthill, and then they realize that this fellow is sitting inside here and doing this japa. He's still there. They realize his sincerity, so they break the anthill and they take him out. He's brought out of samadhi, and they bless him. They say that now, because of you, this entire place has become purified, and you will be known as Valmiki hereafter. And you will get an enormous amount of punya, etc. Now, this story in the Skanda Purana ends in this place. And I was looking for the story where he goes on to write Ramayana, etc., but it's not in the Skanda Purana. The Skanda Purana is one of the 18 Puranas, 18 Mahapuranas, and it's the longest among the 18 Mahapuranas. Among the 18 also is included the Bhagavata Purana, the Bhagavatam, which I am citing from very often. The Skanda Purana is also a very prominent Purana. It has a lot of instructions about dharma, etc., a lot of philosophy also contained in it. So this story is in that. And this story does not match with the other popular story about Valmiki, where the story goes like this. He becomes a robber. The same Brahmana, some Brahmana becomes a robber. And instead of these 7 sages, Narada comes to him. And the same thing happens. And Narada says that, because Narada is a bhakta, right? The Saptarishis, when they come there, they are not, at least when they talk to him, they are not in the mood of a bhakta. They're talking to him as saintly people, dharmikas. But here, Narada is a bhakta, he's a nitya bhakta of Vishnu, right? So Narada sees him from that drishti, in that story, in the other story. And where that story is, I couldn't locate it. But anyway, I will complete that story. So in that story, Narada says that if you want to be delivered from the papa, because he goes back to his family, again, hears the same thing, comes back. So if you want to be delivered from this papa, then you must chant the names of Rama. So just chant Rama, 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 you'll be delivered from this. So he tries to chant Rama. And it is said that when somebody is Ati Papishta, then the name of Krishna does not come on his tongue. The name of Vishnu won't come. He has to at least be free from some level of pap for the name to appear. Right? Sevon Mukhehi Jikpadav Swayameva Spuratyadaha. The name, the Nam Harinam is such that it cannot be forcibly chanted. It has to willingly appear in the heart of somebody and then it comes in the mouth and the tongue of somebody. So he tries to chant Rama Rama, but he's not able to do it. So Narada, being a genius, so he quickly says that, okay, instead of doing Rama Rama, you do like this, you say Mara Mara Mara, because you're used to that, right? Mara means kill, to kill. So you just chant Mara Mara Mara. He says, okay, I will do that. That's easy for me. Naturally comes to me. So he goes and sits and he does Mara 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 Mara, right? So then we know he gets purified and he gets bhakti. Because when you chant the name of Vishnu without any parat, then bhakti develops in the heart. Bhakti automatically appears in the heart. The most important thing there is not even pap, it is aparat. Aparat should be avoided. When aparat is avoided, bhakti develops. So he develops bhakti. Okay, so then he becomes the great sage Valmiki, and we know all the anthill builds, and anthill is then broken, and then he comes out. He is a very great sage, and he becomes a Mahabhagavata. He becomes attached to Rama. And as the story goes forward, Valmiki gets famous. He becomes very famous. He talks about, he knows about Rama. He talks about Rama, and he also has his own disciples. And as the story goes forward, much later, once there's a conversation between Narada and him, his guru Narada. His guru Narada was the one who transformed him from being a robber, a very sinful person, to a bhakta. And so there's a conversation in which he asks Narada about who is the greatest personality, who's filled with all the good qualities, etc. And this is the first chapter of Ramayana of Valmiki. Okay, Valmiki's Ramayana is the original Ramayana. It is written in 24,000 shlokas. In the very first chapter, Valmiki narrates this conversation between him and Narada. And after this, in this conversation, Narada answers his questions by saying that great personality you're asking about is none other than Sri Rama. And he tells very briefly about the qualities of Sri Rama and his different leelas. And at the end of the first chapter, Narada Muni goes away from that place, from the ashram of Valmiki. So in the second chapter of the Ramayana, which is in the Balakanda. Balakanda is the first kanda of Ramayana. Ramayana has 7 kandas, right? The first kanda is called Balakanda. So in the second chapter of the Balakanda, Valmiki has just now heard from his guru. And after about half an hour or so, he said, Do Gadi. Do Gadi is about 48 minutes, 1 muhurta. So after that much time, it is said that he gets up from that place and he goes to a nearby river, which is called the Tamasa Nadi. The Tamasa Nadi. Okay, so this is Valmiki in the anthill. He comes out. Of course, this is much earlier, but now here in the story has gone to a point where he goes to the Tamasa River. The Tamasa River is like a tributary, or I think it's a tributary of Ganga, flowing somewhere near the place where Valmiki was residing at that time. So he goes there. It's a very pure river, very, very beautiful place where he goes. And in that place, there is a ghat. Nadi ke tir mein ghat hota hai. So he goes to the ghat and he wants to do his morning prayers there. His morning sandhya, he wants to take bath and do his sandhya. So he's accompanied by a disciple whose name is Bharadwaj. This Bharadwaj is different from the Bharadwaj Muni, the famous Saptarishi known as Bharadwaj. This disciple of Valmiki his name is also Bharadwaj. So Bharadwaj and he go together. And as he reaches the place, he's
power off.
Oh, this has gone off. Okay. So it's okay. We will hear from the speaker here. So as he sees the place, he's enamored by the beauty of the place. It is so much surrounded by beautiful forests. The river water is very clear, and the bank of the river next to the ghat is very clean, absolutely clean and spotless. So he gets completely enchanted. He tells his disciple, that's what a beautiful place we have come to. This is the right place for us to sit and do our puja or dhyan. So he gets down and he's just absorbing. He just goes for a small stroll. They both are strolling on the bank before they start their puja, absorbing the morning beauty and the calmness of the morning vibes, the morning vibrations. So at that point of time, they see two beautiful birds. Okay, that's called Krauncha Pakshi. There's a particular kind of bird called Krauncha Pakshi. And they see a couple, a male and a female, like husband and wife. That's probably the mating season. So this husband and wife, they are sort of in a romantic mood. Okay, they are sort of romantically interacting with each other. They are in that kind of feeling of love for each other. Okay, they are crying out to each other in cries of love. Those birds, when they are mating, they cry to each other. They make very pleasing sounds. It's pleasing for human beings also to hear those sounds. So these birds, the Krauncha Pakshi in English is called, I Googled and found this, it's called curlew. Okay, you can Google later on and read more about curlews. It's a water bird. It's a particular kind of water bird. So it makes a kind of a shrill kind of a sound, calling out when it calls out to its mate, and the mate responds. So this male and female are calling and responding to each other in a romantic mood, in a very romantic mood. And Valmiki is watching that. And Valmiki and his disciple are watching that and they're enjoying it thoroughly. What a beautiful, in a beautiful environment in the early morning, two birds in such a loving mood, they're talking to each other. Okay. So as this scene is happening, a hunter suddenly appears on that spot. The hunter's job is to hunt animals, right? So he suddenly appears there in the presence of Valmiki and his thing. And completely ignoring Valmiki's presence, he just takes his bow and arrow, aims it at the male bird, and shoots it. The arrow goes straight, hits the male bird, and the male bird is shot. It just falls on the ground, and it's in extreme pain. Blood is oozing out of the body of that male bird, and it is tadapra. In Hindi we say tadapra. It is what on the ground. It is just struggling for breath. So it's dying basically. In that moments of death, it's struggling in pain. And the female bird, who at that point of time was calling out in love, the male and female were just calling out in love to each other. At that point, suddenly sees her partner has been hit by somebody's arrow and is about to die. So she starts lamenting very deeply. In extreme pain, she is now circling that body of her husband, of her lover, and she is crying out in pain. And seeing this, Valmiki is suddenly his mood is filled with compassion in the heart. He says, oh God, what is this? What has happened here? He's overtaken by compassion. So this is the picture, the picturization of that thing. And so in that, overwhelmed by his compassion, words come out of his mouth aimed at that hunter. So he speaks this verse, Ma nishada pratishtham tvam agamaha shashvati samaha yat krauncha mitunadekam avadihi kama mohitam. This is in the Ramayanam, Balakandam, the second chapter of Balakanda, where the story is narrated, the 15th shloka. Okay, the 14 shlokas before this is what all I told you. In the 15th shloka, this shloka is given, this came out of his mouth when he looked at the hunter. So what does this tell us? Ma nishada pratishtam tvam agamaha shashvati samaha yat krauncha mitunadekam avadihi kama mohitam. Ma means do not. Nishada means a hunter. Nishada. Pratishtha means pratishtha, being established. Tvam, you. Agamaha, you should not be established. Agamaha, shashvati samaha. Shashvati means eternal or long, perpetual, eternal, long. Samaha means years. So ma nishada pratishtham tvam agamaha shashvati samaha. Oh hunter, you should not be established for a very long time. In other words, it means you should have a very short life. Why? Yet, because krauncha mitunate. Mitunam means a couple, a pair. Any pair is called a mitunam. Krauncha mitunam. Krauncha pakshi mitunam, a pair of krauncha birds. Krauncha mitunate ekam, one of them. Avadhihi, you killed. Kama mohitam. Kama mohitam means that which was under the influence of a romantic mood. It was in a very romantic mood. Kama mohitam. Kama, love, feeling of love. Mohitam. It was under the influence of that. It was under the moha of that kama. And such a person, such a bird, in that state, you came and killed, and therefore you should not live very long. He utters this immediately. It's spontaneous. It comes out of his mouth. He's not logically thinking. It just comes out of his mouth. Okay. So this is a translation. Oh, hunter, since you killed one in a couple of croucher birds, while it was in an overwhelmed state of conjugal love, may you not live long. Okay. So you can easily visualize this, no? Just imagine two people are in a very romantic mood. It's not difficult to find. If you just go to Jubilee Park, you'll find a lot of croucher birds sitting there. And imagine somebody comes and just shoots an arrow at one of them. What would be, I mean, nobody would look at it very kindly, right? He utters this. And so after uttering this, he then suddenly he realizes that, after all, he's a great sage, right? A great sage doesn't react like that. Whatever happens, he absorbs, or he doesn't reactively say something or do something. But this came out of his mouth. He did not logically think about it and then say it. So he wonders, why did I say that? What came out of my mouth just now? He reflects upon it. And then after some reflection, he turns to his disciple and he says, Bharadwaj, did you hear what I said? No, he said, yes, I heard. Did it sound like a poem? Did it sound like poetically composed? Because normally when we speak, we don't speak in poetry, no? Like right now, I'm not speaking in poetry. I'm just speaking sentences like prose, right? Normally when we speak to each other. So even if Valmiki had to say something to the hunter, he wanted to, for example, say that, hunter, what have you done? What do you think you are? He wanted to say, scold him or something. Why would he compose a verse? He would just say it in a sentence, right? But he tells his disciple that, don't you see that whatever came out of my mouth came out like a verse with 4 padas? So normally a verse has got 4 parts to it. It's called Chatushpada, 4 padas. Like Ma Nishada Pratishtam Tvam is first part. Agamaha Shashwati Samaha is second part. Yat Krauncha Mithunadekam, third part. Avadihi Kama Mohitam, fourth part. And each of them has got 8 syllables. Ma Nishada Pratishtam Tvam. You can count like that, okay? Agama Shashwati Samaha. So like this, you can count. Each of those 4 parts has got 8 syllables. And if you see how it is composed, it's composed in perfect poetic meter called Anushtup. It's perfectly constructed like that. And it came out of his mouth without any thought, without any thinking. So he says, did you realize that something like that came out? His disciple who heard it, he says, yes, Guruji, it came out like that. It came out like that. So hearing that, Valmiki's mind, he starts feeling a certain kind of exhilaration. He says that, what happened now? Something divine has happened in this. There must be some deeper meaning behind this. But he's not able to understand what that is. So he goes back with his disciple. He takes bath in the river. He completes his bath and everything. That incident is over. He takes bath in the river. And he goes back to his ashram. And when he goes back to his ashram, he sits and his mind is not able to come out of this verse. His verse is going on in his mind again and again. And he thinks, how did it happen that a perfectly composed verse came out of my mouth? I've never composed verses like this. I'm not in the business of composing verses, but this suddenly happened. What happened? So as he's thinking like this, suddenly Brahma, who is the Srishtikarta for this universe, he appears in front of him. And Valmiki receives him with great honor, does his worship and everything, sits down, and he expresses this to him. He says that something happened just now, and I don't know why it happened. Can you explain? So Brahma smiles and he says that, don't worry, it was I who planted this verse in your mouth. And I made this verse come out of your mouth. And I have a special mission for you. And I want you to devote yourself to talking about Sri Rama. And just like this verse is composed in a particular meter, you must write about Sri Rama, all his activities, his qualities, his gunas, all his activities, the adventures, the suffering that apparently he went through in this lifetime. Everything from beginning to end, you must write in exactly the same meter that I just put in your mouth. I have given it. It's by my blessing that Saraswati. Saraswati actually is Brahma's wife, no? Saraswati appeared in your mouth in the form of this verse. So please now compose the entire Ramayana in this commemoration meter. So this is the beginning of Ramayana. This is how the whole Ramayana got to be composed. And Valmiki himself writes this. In the second chapter of Balakanda, he narrates this whole incident. He says, this is how I came to write the Ramayana. And the whole Ramayana is written in this verse. And now, what is very interesting is that this verse, actually the direct meaning of this verse is about Valmiki telling the hunter that, oh, my dear hunter, you will not live very long because you did this very sinful activity. But this verse actually came out, it has what is called as a Slesha Alankara. In Sanskrit, Alankara means the way of composing. Okay, Alankara or Dhvani. Dhvani means indirect meaning. Alankara means rhetoric. In English, we say rhetoric, right? When you don't directly say something, but indirectly mean something. You say something, but you mean something else. So actually, there is an Alankara here. That's called Slesha. Slesha means double meaning. Means there's a direct meaning and there is a hidden meaning in this verse, an indirect meaning. So what is that indirect meaning here? And what does it point to? The direct meaning is pointing to the hunter. But the other meaning, which is hidden here, is actually pointing to Sri Rama. And how is it pointing to Sri Rama? It's pointing to Sri Rama in this manner. Ma Nishada. Ma in the first meaning is do not or not. And it's going to the hunter. But here, Ma means Lakshmi. Ma is Mother Lakshmi. Nishada, the word Nishada, Nishidati, one who is a resting abode of Lakshmi, is Vishnu. So Ma Nishada is Vishnu, or Rama, or Rama. Pratishtham Tvam. Okay, you must be established. Pratishtham Tvam. Agamaha, you should go. Shashwati Samaha, you should be established for, or your fame should be established for perpetual time, for a very long time. Shashwati Samaha. Why? Because yet Krauncha Mithunadekam. Krauncha Mithunam. So what is the Krauncha Pakshi? There in the hunter's case, the Krauncha Pakshi refers to that real Krauncha Pakshi, right? Which is actually called Krauncha. But here, whom does it refer to? So Krauncha comes, the word Krauncha comes from the Sanskrit dhatu Kruncha, Krunchati. Kruncha means, Kruncha has two meanings. One meaning of the word Kruncha is Kutilagati. Kutilagati means a crooked way or crooked movement, one which moves in a crooked way, not in a straight manner, upright manner, one which moves in a horizontal manner or a crooked manner, or has a crooked nature, that which has a crooked nature. Another meaning of Kruncha is that which is small. Krunchati means that which becomes small, insignificant, that which shrinks, to shrink. Krunchati means to shrink. So one meaning of Krunchati is to move in a crooked manner. The other meaning of Krunchati is to shrink or to become small. So here, Kruncha becomes Krauncha. Crooked is attached to Ravana, Asuras. Asuras have a crooked nature. Ravana is a crooked personality. And Ravana's wife, Mandodari, is also a Rakshasi. So Krauncha Mithuna is the Rakshasa couple, Ravana and Mandodari. Yet Krauncha Mithuna Dekam. Among this couple of Ravana and Mandodari, you killed one of them, which is called Ravana. Kama Mohitam, who was overcome by lust for your wife. Right? Ravana was overcome by lust for Sita, Mama Sita. So you killed that Ravana. And therefore, you should be established for a very long time. Your fame should last eternally. Okay? And this is the hidden meaning or the intended meaning. Normally, when we do Shlesha Alankara, the external meaning is something that appears to the naive reader. But the real reader, the person who understands the intention of the author, he sees the hidden meaning, the Shlesha, the Shlesha. So Shleshartha. So Shleshartha becomes apparent to the intelligent reader. Okay, that is what the author really wanted to say. So the author's real meaning, which actually was not in Valmiki's mind, but which was planted by Brahma, was that Valmiki should start writing the Ramayana with what is called the Mangalacharana. Mangalacharana is a shloka that is placed at the beginning of every Shastra. Every Shastra begins with a Mangalacharana. Mangalacharana means invoking the auspiciousness, invoking the blessings of a superior deity, of one's guru, etc. So this verse planted by Lord Brahma, Sri Brahma, in the mouth of Valmiki at the beginning of Ramayana has been done as a Mangalacharana. It's called Ishta Devata Smarana Rupa Mangalacharana because Valmiki's Ishta Devata is Sri Ram, right? So without his own knowledge, using the Krauncha Pakshi as an incident, as a what do you call a nimitta, as a cause. Valmiki uttered this Mangalacharana, O abode of Mother Lakshmi Sri Rama, since you killed one among a Rakshasa couple who was deluded by his lusty desires, may your fame be for long. Okay, so this is the beautiful story of how Valmiki came to write Ramayana. Valmiki, who was supposed to have been very papi. Right? He says, Yetu antagatam papam. The 28th shloka of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, which we read today, it says, Esham tvantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmuktaha bhajante mam dradaprataha. By the blessings of a great bhakta of Sri Bhagavan, a person who is very papi also becomes a bhakta, like Valmiki. And not only that, he ends up doing great activities. Like, for example, writing this Mahan literature called Ramayana, which after so many, several thousand, maybe several yugas has lasted, and we are still worshipping that Ramayana today, right? Without fail, Muslims came, invaders came, they went away. Buddhists came, they went away. The British came, they went away. Ramayana still lives, and we are still worshipping Ramayana, and we are talking about it, right? We got educated, we did PhD, we studied in IIT, we studied a lot of atheism, but Ramayana will not leave us. It will always be with us. And that is the greatness of this literature. So many theories will come and go, but Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam will survive. And very interestingly, just to complete this discussion, I should also point out that there's a great commentator on Ramayana. Every sloka he's given his commentary, a Sanskrit commentary. And I located this with the help of my wife. She located this on the IIT Kanpur. IIT Kanpur has a super site where they have collected several Sanskrit commentaries on Bhagavad-gita, on the Ramayana, Mahabharata, on so many Shastras. And this commentary is by a great scholar called Govindaraj Acharya. And in that, he analyzes this shloka in great detail, much more than what I told you now. And he says that this entire shloka actually not only has a pointer to Rama, like I just pointed out, it points to Rama, but it's much more than that. The entire Rama, all the 7 kandas of Ramayana, beginning with Bala Kanda, are actually indicated in this shloka. Okay, so tell you very briefly, he says this Ma Nishada, for example, the first 2 words, Ma Nishada, it points to Bala Kanda. Because Ma Nishada means what? The word Nishada, how does it point to Lakshmi? Ma Nishada points to Vishnu. But why is Ma Nishada pointing to Vishnu? Nishada means Nishidati. Nishidati is a Sanskrit verb. Nishidati means rests, is the abode of, rests. So Ma Nishada, Mayaha Nishadaha, Ma Nishada. So one who is the resting place of Ma, Lakshmi. Okay, so in the Balakanda of Ramayana, Mother Sita, she is married to Rama. Rama comes there and lifts the bow and wins her hand. And she becomes Rama's from that point onwards. And Balakanda ends there. Balakanda ends when Ma becomes Lakshmi, becomes Vishnu's. She goes to the hand of Vishnu and she becomes Ma Nishada. So therefore, Ma Nishada points to Balakanda. Similarly, Pratishtham Tvam, he says, corresponds to the next Kanda, Ayodhya Kanda, because that is where his Pratishtha is supposed to happen. He's supposed to be crowned as the king, but that Pratishtha gets disturbed and he is now asked to go to the forest. He becomes Apratishta there. So Pratishtham Tvam Agamaha. So that is actually pointing to Ayodhya Kanda. His Pratishtha is being discussed there. Okay. Similarly, Shashwati Samaha, the third portion, corresponds to Aranya Kanda, the third Kanda of Ramayana. Aranya Kanda is when they have gone to the forest and the bulk of the story of Ramayana happens there, where they go into the ashramas of different sages, the saintly people in the Aranya. Some places they fight against asuras, some places they just give darshan. Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana. The 3 of them, they meet the different, like the great sages, and they talk to them. The sages host them. So wherever they go, they meet these great personalities, and that's a bulk of Aranya Kanda. So Shashwati Samaha, for a long time, they spend in the Aranya. And towards the end of Aranya Kanda, this Shurpanaka comes there and she does her, that nuisance. And then her nose is chopped off, she goes back. And then her brothers, Kara, Dushana, they come, they get killed. And a lot of things happen. A lot of drama happens towards the end of Aranya Kanda, right? And then The last line, Yat krauncha mitunadekam avadihi kama mohitam. This Acharya, who's scholar who is commenting, he says this corresponds to the last four kandas. The beginning with the Kishkinda Kanda. The last four kandas are Kishkinda Kanda, Sundara Kanda, Yuddha Kanda, Uttara Kanda. So in Kishkinda Kanda, they go from the Aranya to the place called Kishkinda, where they meet Sugriva, Hanuman. Beginning with Hanuman and Sugriva. Then they go and meet the other Vanaras. And then the incident with Vali happens. So how does it correspond to Kishkinda Kanda? He says that this is Yat Krauncha Mituna Dekam. Krauncha here, Krauncha because it says not upright. So here, Krauncha Mitunam corresponds to the couple known as Vali and Tara. And among this couple, Vali and Tara, Rama killed Vali. So he says, Yat Krauncha Mitunadekam Avadihi Kama Mohitam. So Vali actually was overcome by lusty desires. He was actually a lustful personality. And Rama explains to him after he kills him in the Ramayana. And I verified this with the original Ramayana. There are many versions of Ramayana existing everywhere. And they tell different versions of the story. But in the original Valmiki Ramayana, how it is explained is Sugriva is not at fault for whatever happened. Sugriva actually, is trying to help his elder brother. So the story begins with Vali and Sugriva, being challenged by a demon by name. His name is he's the son of Maya. He's called Mai. So he's the son of Maya, the demon called Maya. And he's challenged by them. Vali is challenged by this demon. So Vali comes out and chases him. Seeing Vali is very strong, extremely strong. And so people are scared. Even Ravana is scared of Vali. So Vali chases along with the help of Sugriva. Sugriva is the younger brother, always subservient to Vali. And they chase him and he enters into a hole in the ground. And in that hole, Vali goes inside and tells Sugriva, please wait outside, I'll come. Sugriva says, I'll wait for you. If you want, I'll also come with you and we'll together kill him. No, he says, you wait outside, I'll come back. And for a very long time, for 1 year, he doesn't come out. And Sugriva thinks that, why is he not coming out? Has something happened? He's always anxious. And suddenly he hears a sound. He hears the sound of the Rakshasa's voice, shouting loudly. And he also hears his brother's voice, Vali's voice. So in the commotion that happens, he does not know what actually happened. He thinks that somebody has killed someone and he sees blood coming out of that hole. So he concludes by mistake that Vali has got killed by the Asura. And out of fear, extreme fear, that now the Asura will come out and kill all of us in Kishkinda. So he shuts the door of that hole with a big rock and he goes away. Goes back to Kishkinda and he tells all the ministers of Vali that this is what happened. He tells them that it looks like my brother has been killed and his blood was coming out. So please, let's do something that Asura may come now. I have closed the hole. So ministers also say, they all repent, they all lament that Vali has died. And they tell him that you did a good thing by closing the hole. And they appoint him as the king. So he doesn't want to become the king. He wants his brother as the king, but he is appointed as the king without his own, willingness. So he then becomes the king and he rules the kingdom in a very just manner. But in the meantime, Vali, who is not really dead, he comes to that hole, the entrance of the hole. He has killed the demon and he comes there and he finds the rock has been placed. So he doesn't know why the rock has been placed. He calls out to Sugriva but doesn't get a response. So he hits the rock very hard. After hitting it several times, he breaks the rock. And then he comes out. He comes back to Kishkinda and he finds Sugriva sitting on the throne. So even before Sugriva is able to explain to him, he concludes mistakenly again that Sugriva has been lusty after my kingdom, and therefore he blocked the hole. And he humiliates Sugriva. He pulls him down and he humiliates him. Sugriva tries to explain. So there is a whole chapter there where Sugriva is explaining to Vali that no, it's a mistake here, misunderstanding. So he explains to him, but Vali is unwilling to listen. He boots him out. Vali boots him out of that kingdom. And Sugriva, without any choice, has to leave there. And then Vali does one thing which is extremely sinful. He takes Sugriva's wife by name Roma and he starts enjoying her. He starts indulging in illegal activity with his Sugriva's wife Roma. Although he's already having a wife called Tara, right? So he does that. And so when Rama kills him, Vali asks him, what wrong did I do? So Rama tells him this. You did two wrongs. The first wrong was this. And he says, this is the reason why I killed you, that you took away his wife. You had no reason. You are a lusty person. You had no right to do that. He did not do any wrong. He was genuine, but you were not genuine. So this is from Valmiki Ramayana. Okay? So here in the second line is explained like this. Yat krauncha mitunadekam avadihi kama mohitam corresponds to Kishkinda Kand because it points to Vali. How does it correspond to Sundara Kand? In the Sundara Kand, this krauncha mitunam is explained as Sita and Rama. Sita, Rama, that couple, they are a couple, right? And they were together in the forest. But upon separation, they were separated by Ravana. Ravana came and separated them. So Sita underwent enormous amount of pain. And on this side, Rama also underwent enormous amount of pain. And out of that pain, both of them became very thin, Krisha. They became very, very thin and very shrunk. Their bodies became very pale. That's how this Acharya described. And in that extreme pain, they became krauncha. Krauncha means becoming small, shrinking, becoming insignificant in that sense. Right? Both of them suffered in that period of time. And so, krauncha mitunadekam avadihi kama mohitam. This is done by Ravana. Ravana killed Sita, within quotes. Killed within quotes means he destroyed her happiness. Sita lived in that place, Ashokavana in Lanka, in extreme lamentation. So she was like dead at that point of time. So therefore, the Sundara Kanda corresponds to Sita's being killed by Ravana in that sense. Okay. Similarly, he says in the Yuddha Kanda, this Krauncha Mithuna refers to Ravana and Mandodari, and therefore this corresponds to Ravana being killed by Rama. And finally, again, in the Uttara Kanda, Sita is asked to leave by Rama after hearing something. Rama asks her to leave, and she again goes through a lot of pain. So again, the Krauncha Mithunam is Sita and Rama. They are again separated in the Uttara Kanda of Rama. So this way, this Acharya explains in elaboration how this whole shloka, this shloka which came out of Valmiki's mouth, actually contains the entire Ramayana in a very sutra form, in a condensed form. And that's why this shloka has a very special place in the beginning of Ramayana. Captures the entire Ramayana. So we will stop with this for today. I've taken a really long time today, more than my usual time. And if you have any questions to discuss.
Lanka Kand and Yuddha Kand are the same.
There's no Kand called Lanka Kand in Ramayana, in Valmiki Ramayana. It is called Yuddha Kanda. After Sundara Kand is the Yuddha Kand. Yeah. In the Sundara Kand, Hanuman goes to Lanka and then meets Sita, burns Lanka, and comes back. And then they discuss and start building the bridge and so on. And in the Yuddha Kand, this Yuddha happens.
This Uttarakhand is there.
Uttarakhand is there. Seventh Kand is there.
The birth of love and worship
Well, I have not studied the Uttarakhand in that detail, so anybody else who knows can tell this. If Lava and Kush are born in Uttarakhand or not.
Yes.
They are? Okay. If it's there in the Valmiki Ramayana. So when we discuss this, you see there's also Tulsi Ramayana, which has slightly different variation. So each Ramayana version which came after Valmiki has some variation of the original. Okay? So when we are studying this now, we are studying in terms of Valmiki's Ramayana, the original Ramayana, the Mula Ramayana.
During chanting that Valmiki was doing of that mantra, I could not follow the one thing that he said while he was in that zone and totally involved first into that mantra.
Yeah.
After that, he said.
Which Valmiki? The first one, the first Skanda Purana story. Yeah, he is in a state of samadhi. He is in sattva.
Around
Anthill. The ants build, no?
So, like that was to disturb him. What was the purpose of that anthill?
Ants, they build, no? Anthills wherever they find some.
The purpose was so that he was so much immersed that he did not even notice that he had waited for a long duration.
He was so still that
He was so still, the ants did not realize that it's a living being. He was in samadhi, that his body became emaciated, it became like a statue. So if you discard a statue in the ground, then things will grow around it. Nature will grow around it, right?
So that happened.
Yeah, that happened with his body. Around him, that anthill grew.
And he continued doing it.
Yes. His breathing also probably had stopped, because only when breathing is there will some other living being recognize that there's a living being here. It will sense that. Right? Probably when a yogi is becomes so much in his spiritual advancement that he's even able to stop his breathing.
Even in the
Dhruva story also we hear that after the third or fourth month he stops his breathing, right? Completely. Yeah.
usually the idea is that he was very still in that.
Very still. Yeah. He goes about time. He loses sense of time, this material time. And time stops for him. He's in complete sattva. He's meditating on just one thing, which in this case is the mantra. He's been given some mantra by his guru, and only that mantra he is conscious of, nothing else. And in that consciousness of that mantra, he's experiencing complete awareness. He's completely aware of that complete happiness, sense of happiness, identity, everything is with that mantra. He wants to go on doing it again and again. Yeah.
What kind of bhakti, like, another category we can classify Valmiki?
Well, the Valmiki that we are speaking about now, not that earlier one, this Valmiki is in a Shuddha Bhakti. It's Kevala Bhakti. There is nothing in his mind in this state. He's not looking for mukti. He's already a Nitya Mukta. Right? When he started the journey, it would be Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti, where he is looking for freedom from his pap. He's a, you can say, a Jnani. He's going on the path of Jnana. When he's given the Diksha by Narada, that we chant Mara, 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 Mara. So at that point, he's like a Jnani. He's given that mantra and told that if you do this, all your pap will end and you will come out of samsara. So he gets that flash of realization about what he has been doing as completely wrong, completely inappropriate. So he's not merely, I would say, I would put him at one level above somebody who is just looking for a solution to his immediate miseries. Like Sugriva, for example. Sugriva goes to Rama in the Ramayana to come back to his normal life. He has been thrown out by Vali. And he is like, his wife has been stolen away by Vali. He is now thrown out. He has no place to stay. He can't go back to his kingdom. If he goes back, Vali will kill him. So he has to stay on the nearby mountain. So he goes to Rama, seeks his help. He says, please help me to come back to my kingdom. Please do something. And Rama promises him help. So he is a Artha in those four. Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti is a Artha, coming out of distress. Artho Jigyasur Artharthi Jnani Cha Bharatashita. So first category is Artha. Yeah?
In regards to the 27th verse, we discussed that since the time of creation, the jiva has that sort of desire for iteration.
Yeah.
Now, is there also, and now since jiva continues across births, so every time, let's say, a child is born, they have that sort of picture within them, or they have that sense of duality within them from that initial point of view?
Yes. It goes with the Linga Sharira. See, when we die in any given birth, only the Stula Sharira dies. The Linga Sharira does not die. It goes with the Jivatma to the next body, the next Stula Sharira. The Linga Sharira carries with it all the vasanas, the samskaras, vasanas, all the desires which go with that.
A lot of science which says that when you're born as a let's say, binary person, you're just born as one person. That is not exactly right, because you're carrying back the past births.
Yes. So modern science does not recognize something called a past birth. The modern science does not recognize the Jivatma, the living being, as a Jivatma, which is different from matter. Everything is categorized in terms of this matter. The periodic table that we read in chemistry, solids, liquids, gases. So everything is that only. So in modern science, life is just these atoms and molecules. There's nothing else that is life. Similarly, consciousness, the consciousness that we experience, is a product of these atoms and molecules and chemical reactions. And you can say electrical signals which take place in the nervous system. So everything is explained by modern science in terms of that. Whereas Vedanta or Veda in general, not only Vedanta, I think all the 6 darshanas of the Indian schools, they explain the existence of the Atma. The living being is the Atma, which experiences itself through this body. It is through because unless its consciousness is sufficiently purified, it's not able to separate itself from this body. So we experience our own self through this body only.
And we speak about, let's say, traits, genes, things which are carried on from our parents to ourselves.
Yeah.
Is in any way the Linga Sharira of ourselves connected to the Linga Sharira of our parents, or is it an independent?
Karma is because of the theory of karma, because we are given birth in a body in which we can experience the karma that we have to experience in a given birth. In every given birth, a certain amount of punya and papa fructifies. The karma phala of that punya and papa has to be experienced in that birth. That's allocated for that birth, right? So we are given parents in a manner that is favorable for that. If we had some other parents, maybe that karma phala cannot be experienced with those parents. For example, suppose there is somebody's karma to experience lot of riches. So naturally, he has to be born in a family of somebody else who has similar karma, who also experiences riches, right? He's born in a rich man's family, and vice versa, poor man's family, etc.
Kumar Singh, in the story that you shared, you said that Valmiki was enjoying the dating that was happening between the birds, and there was this lust that was there. So is there some sort of positive lust and negative lust that they distinguish between?
No, even a scene that is material, yes, between the birds there was lust, that is kama. But Valmiki is not influenced by the kama. He's just enjoying nature as Sri Bhagavan's creation. Every saintly person, even though he knows that this nature is filled with iccha and dvesha, he appreciates its beauty as it is. If you look at Dalma Hills, once you become saintly, or even as you're practicing saintly nature, you appreciate the beauty of Dalma Hills probably even better than what you did earlier. You like that. You want to go spend more time there.
You still appreciate activities that may not be perhaps in the right direction, because we generally say that a person who's engaged in kama through the logomaya, they are basically not the people who are in the path of bhakti. Right?
Yeah. So you appreciate the beauty of the, for example, here in this particular context, these Krauncha Pakshi are in a very loving mood. See, Preeti has multiple aspects to it, multiple shades to it. But this Preeti is where they are liking each other. There is a liking, right? That form of Preeti, even though it is driven by the moha of the samsara, it is favorable. It has a sattvic nature to it.
Which is,
The Preeti between a husband and a wife, which is not in the form of, say, very rajasic lust. It is love. It is their hearts are uniting with each other. They love each other. They like each other. Right? That is the love that he sees between those two birds. So if you see two human beings also in that kind of a mood, then there's nothing wrong in appreciating that. So when you see a young couple getting married, you wish that they have a pleasant romantic life also. Right? You won't go and tell them, even if you are a very knowledgeable person, you know Vedanta. But you don't go and tell them now you both are going to get caught in Mohamaya. So I hope that your marriage fails. So you will become separated and become jnani. It doesn't work that way.
But Savdhan is inserted, I think, in marriages.
Yeah. So when they have to get that jnana, they will come. But if they are having a pleasant bond between them, husband and wife, dharma, in accordance with dharma, husband and wife are meant to have a bond. They are meant to belong to each other. They become part of each other. Right? They are, in English also, better half. I don't know if,
It's a law of nature. Again. So
yeah.
there's nothing wrong in that.
Nothing wrong in
that. It's required to.
just to add to what you said the other day, Professor Kumara was also saying something very favorable in this direction. So he was actually mentioning Dharma and calm modes. So he was saying that in this Grihast ashram, so these are 4 ashrams. So in Grihast ashram, the first week exists together. That's the only ashram where all the 3 are existing together, and and that is a source of support and happiness to the entire society. So once you get married, it's like taking a responsibility of the happiness and prosperity of the society. So because it's a uh, it's a phase where all the three exist together. Like you are striving for dharma, you're striving for art, and you are striving for calm. Like all the three exist together, and this in a balanced state.
Right. Thank you.
Sir, you recently appreciated, in the samskara of Vivah, the man says that I belong to the woman, and the woman wife says that I belong to the husband. So this belongingness, I think you recently appreciated this. But a few shlokas before we talked about how, this belongingness that, okay, this is my husband or this is my woman. This creates a dvandva and then you are
Yes.
not able to go on bhakti. So, how to reconcile these two stances?
So along with uniting together as husband and wife, bhakti also has to be brought in. And they should know that, okay, once we are united in husband and wife, we belong to each other. Let us now bring Sri Bhagavan in between us, who is the bond between us. Let's unite through Sri Bhagavan. That is how the Dvandva is removed. Then both realize that eternally we belong to Sri Bhagavan. In this lifetime, we have become husband and wife.
So
We have the duty of practicing dharma in a way that is pleasing to him.
So a sati or pativrata or maybe patni vrata can also have a sense of bhakti and not just be only devoted to the better half.
Yes. Person who is only devoted to his better half is not following dharma in the best way. Following dharma should be followed in a way that will spiritually elevate both of them, both pati and patni, and the pati is more responsible for it. The Shastra says the pati is more responsible than the patni. That's the way that it's given. The role is not that the patni is not responsible, but both are responsible. But the pati has to lead the way, has to take the charge of that. So both he has to they have to follow dharma in a manner that both are elevated. Pativrata, patnivrata does not mean that both will fall. Both will then become, lusty and then fall into the well of material existence. Both have to practice dharma and elevate themselves spiritually and produce children who are also dharmic. Children should be born in such a way and brought up in such a way that they are automatically attracted to dharma, to practice dharma and live by dharma, and not become adharmic.
Again, according to what he is saying. So, from where he is questioning, what I can relate to is that he is looking things separately. If you are doing, let's say, you are in a relationship of husband and wife, then you are just invested into that. That doesn't happen in real life actually. So whenever you are there in this universe, you are actually like fulfilling many roles at the time. Whenever you are into that husband-wife color relationship, then you are invested into that the way it has been prescribed. But there are several other things also you do. So bringing bhakti into that may also like elevate you into a next level. That's what I feel.
Yeah. I agree
So
with that, yeah.
and I don't know this is because of Western education system or not. We generally tend to see everything in isolation,
Yes.
and that's why we set a boundary condition and we say that only this thing is happening and the impact of this thing is this,
Yeah.
or the consequences of this thing is this. In reality, there is no singularity or there is no single thing that impacts something, basically.
Okay.
That's what I feel actually. So, I don't know whether that is like correct or not.
If these principles of Bhagavata Dharma are brought into life,
Yes.
then Dharma becomes easy to follow.
Yeah.
Because like the qualities we discussed last time, the 34 odd qualities which I compiled in a Word file and sent to you. For example, we know that these are qualities that are pleasing to Sri Bhagavan, and we adopt them. Let's say in a family, a husband and wife together sit and say, we will live by this. Then the household becomes very dharmic. Dharma automatically gets subsumed in that. You don't have to know the complex Vedic yajnas, Ashwamedha yajna, this yajna, that yajna. You don't have to know all of that. Just follow the simple Bhagavata Dharma and it's done.
Again, sir, like the husband wife example, they are not just the husband wife staying together. They are part of the society. They are playing multiple roles simultaneously.
Yes.
So they are somebody's parents. They are somebody's daughter, or like let's say a daughter-in-law, and then they are somebody's sister or brother.
Yes.
So they are playing multiple. They are part of the society. They have a transactional relationship with the society. So in all this process, if they are maintaining the dharma or doing the bhaktiful way,
Yes.
doing it bhaktifully, then they are leading a great life, I would say.
Yes. Yes. Naturally, because at the base, we should realize what Sri Bhagavan wants is a peaceful dharmic society, a society where there is what we call today a sustainable living, happy living. People are happy, contented, not stepping on each other's shoes, not trying to harm each other, can live without jealousy, anger, hatred, etc. So we should practice that with respect to our own people first. So charity begins at home. So good things begin at home. Right? So absolutely. So if somebody is fighting with their own people, Swajaneshu Vairi, that's called Swajaneshu Vairi. That is said to be living in hell. You're fighting with your own people. That's a symptom of living in hell, actually. You cannot practice Bhagavata Dharma if you're doing that. Right?
Also, is not very much related to today's discussion. It may digress.
For sure.
So, sir, do we in Bhagavad-Gita do we see any reference where Arjuna has asked Sri Bhagavan, like why among all his brothers and everyone who is present, why he has been chosen to get all this knowledge from Sri Bhagavan directly? Like
Arjuna doesn't ask that, but in one place, Sri Bhagavan himself says, in the 4th chapter, he says that. He says that because you are my very dear friend, you are very dear to me, and you are free from envy. Anasuyave, he says. Asuya means envy. Anasuya. Arjuna is Anasuya because he doesn't have any envy. Anusuyuhu, that's the Sanskrit word. Anasuyave means unto you, who is free from envy. He is not envious of anybody. Such a person, because of that, I am giving it to you.
yeah, but
Why among the 5 brothers, why he was chosen? Yeah. So in the Gita, that is not explicitly explained. Yeah, Yudhishthira was also, in fact, Yudhishthira is often in Mahabharata, his explained more as a more glorious personality. But we should know that Arjuna and Krishna are actually Nitya Parshada, Naranarayan. One of the forms, Jivatma, Nara, and Narayana, Vishnu. They come together and reside eternally as Naranarayan. So Arjuna is a Nitya Bhakta. He's only taken birth in the avatar, just like when Vishnu comes along with him, his Lakshmi also comes, Rukmini, or Antaranga Shakti comes as Radha, his parents, Nanda Yashoda, they take birth. They are not Jivatmas like us. They are not samsaris. They are Nitya, means they are always Mukta. So after death, they go back to that original state.
so again,
They don't take a birth based on karma.
so can a plausible explanation be that since Yudhishthira was also highly knowledgeable, so had Sri Krishna been the Sarthi of Yudhishthira, and had Yudhishthira asked this question, please take me to those people whom I have to fight against. So he would not shiver or maybe say be afraid to fight. And he would simply take up the bow and arrow and say, okay, I'm ready to fight. Because he is already knowledgeable. He is free from ignorance. But since Arjuna is not that knowledgeable, that is why Sri Krishna is the Sarthi of Arjuna and all of this Gita happens.
Sir, I have a different point of view to this.
Arjuna is not already knowledgeable. He's
not,
put in
not
there.
as knowledgeable as Yudhishthir. I mean, even in the Chirharan,
He's sufficiently knowledgeable to know that he should fight the war. Just like, see, none of the other four brothers had this condition, right?
Again, sir, like
All of them are highly educated. In fact, in the Gurukul of Duryodhana, sorry, Dronacharya, and in other educational systems that they've gone to, all of them have been sufficiently educated to at least know that in the Yuddha Bhumi they should not leave and go. Right? At least that much they know. So if Yudhishthira knows that, Arjuna also knows it. But he is put in that Maya, that Moha Maya, only because Sri Bhagavan wants to speak the Bhagavad Gita.
I mean, yes, I agree, but if Sri Krishna had taken the chariot in front of, say, Duryodhana or Karna, then none of this Bhagavad Gita would have come out, because Arjuna would already be so fiercely angry on seeing those that he would directly start.
No, he saw them.
Pitama
He saw all of them.
Placed before Bhishma Pitama, Dronacharya,
Everything.
Krupacharya, and he saw them as his own. I mean, if he were placed against Huh?
because Pitama Vishnu was the Senapati for first 10 days.
No, but
That's why
No, this argument that if the Ratha was taken in front of Duryodhana, things would have been different. No, it's not like that. It is just that when you see Arjuna's discourse in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, giving reasons why he doesn't want to fight, it covers Duryodhana also. He doesn't have any grudge against Duryodhana as well. Right? Yeah, includes everybody. Because he sees a picture in his mind where if Duryodhana, Karna, everybody is killed, Ashwatthama, everybody is killed, then the whole Kula will get destroyed. The Kula will get destroyed, and the population will suffer, masses will suffer. He sees that. The entire, just like when COVID came, the whole population suffers. We don't know how many will die. Millions are going to, we don't know what's going to happen. That kind of situation. So now this war will happen. All of these are great kings, great personalities. And there'll be no one to lead there. And he says the women who are not there in the war, they will not get killed. They'll be there, but they will get spoiled. Means other unscrupulous men will come and take them away. And there will be progeny which is born. Just like what happened in India when the Muslims came, right? They came and they stole our women. They took away the princesses, not only princesses, but even ordinary men, ordinary women, they were taken away. And a lot of the Muslim population today is just a result of that, right? The descendants of that, isn't it? So that's what will happen. He foresees that. Arjuna foresees all this and he says, that is why I don't want to fight this war. Varna Sankara, 2-3 times it comes, that word Varna Sankara, right?
Sir, coming to his question, I think the most eligible person to fight and finish the war was Arjuna. That's what Bhagavad Gita was said to him, not to the Yudhishthira or someone. In terms of Punsartha or Bal, you may say, or skill to fight a war. Probably he was the most eligible, and with all the sort of knowledge about war, and he had the skill to fight a whole lot of army.
He was certainly he was among the most eligible, but on both sides there were highly eligible people.
Yes.
So it's very difficult to say he was the single most eligible, and that is why Gita was spoken to him. Because Bhishma on this side, Karna on this side was also highly eligible. On this side, Yudhishthira, all of them.
They were like, these people were fighting for dharma, and those people were against these people, right? So anyway, Bhagavan will give someone from their side who can do that work.
But even among the five brothers, if we talk about, he might be right when he says he was the most skillful, and we have seen that example of.
Yeah, but because he is the most skillful, Bhagavad Gita was spoken to him. That argument is not given anywhere.
That is not given. That is fine as well.
Yeah, so I would think that the Gita was given to him. If you leave it to me, I would think that because Naranarayana, Arjuna and Krishna are eternally bound to each other. There's an eternal bond between them. Unlike with the other four brothers. Arjuna's bond with Krishna is eternal. Right? As Naranarayana. So so that could be the basis for Arjuna's closeness. And even in that whole Mahabharata, there is a lot of closeness between Arjuna and Krishna even before the war.
He is the brother-in-law of Krishna.
Krishna wants Subhadra to marry him. But Krishna arranges for that. He doesn't want Subhadra to marry somebody else. He wants his sister Subhadra to marry Arjuna. So she becomes Arjuna's wife. And Abhimanyu is born of that. So Krishna has a special bond with Arjuna, that Nitya, because they have a Nitya Sambandha between them, right?
They were very good friends also. So
I would probably see it that way.
Of course, but when you see something from a perspective of as if Bhagavan himself is creating all these things, and he has the decision to pick someone. Whom would he pick from the Dharma side? Definitely the most eligible person, or who can do the task. That way I am thinking.
That is for fighting.
Yeah, for the fighting.
Not for giving Gita to.
Yes.
Right? If you want to put him at the front of the army, maybe that argument will hold.
Yes, that's what.
Correct? Who should be the opening batsman?
Yeah.
Person who can face the fast bowlers best. Correct? But who should be the one to whom we should give the theory of cricket? Maybe somebody else.
Yeah.
That bond that you just said, is that the one that we were discussing in the session? You were saying that out of crores of population, only rare is dear to me and knows me.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
that the bond you were?
Yes. In that intimacy, one gets more and more jnana about Sri Bhagavan. They know Bhagavan, understand him better and better. But still Sri Bhagavan says, no one knows me in truth. So even his most intimate bhakta does not really know him fully. There's no one in existence who knows him completely.
Yeah.
Maybe he
If
feels that
Arjuna would have known, then
have
there was no need of Gita.
quest and the something like that.
If
No, I think he means it.
If Arjuna would have known, there was no need of Bhagavad Gita.
Arjuna is put in that condition.
That's what I am saying.
Yeah.
Like, what Bhagavan
He
is
did
saying,
not
that
go-
nobody knows me properly.
Yes.
If Arjuna also would have known by being a friend, like a real friend,
Yeah.
we all of us can be a bhakta, but we can't really be a friend right now.
Yeah.
So being the real friend of Bhagavan himself, he also don't know what Bhagavan is saying. If he would have known, then there was no need of Bhagavad Gita saying.
Yeah.
He would have directly gone and killed everyone.
The Bhagavad Gita would not have happened. Yes.
And then there is one more argument to this. Among the 5 brothers, there was only one guy who was confused. The rest 4 of them, if you look into it, they were very sure what they wanted to do. Yudhishthir was the most person who is beloved on the Dharma. He knows what to do. Bhim, he wanted to complete his vow. Nakul and Sahadev were equally following Yudhishthir. They were not even questioning anyone. Arjuna was the only person who was a bit confused, and he was in technical doldrums. And generally, sir, I've seen God chooses persons who are a bit confused. So I think my argument is that.
But before the war, was Arjuna confused?
No,
I don't think so.
no.
Yeah.
When
So he's put him in. So
Yeah.
we should not say God chose him because he was
He was
confused.
put in that condition.
God chose him because he is very intimate to him.
after facing that condition,
Correct.
he got confused.
And
And he
after
was-
being chosen, he was put into that condition.
Yes. After being chosen. So he chose. Choosing was not on the basis of being
Another
confused.
theory is there.
His confusion, somebody's confusion was not the basis of their being chosen.
It's just a phase.
Intimacy was the basis for being chosen.
And then putting it into.
Then put into confusion so that he can ask those questions, the kind of questions we ask. He's meant to represent us. He's our Pratinidhi there. We ask all sorts of questions to Bhagavan. So he's raising such kind of questions and we say, I won't listen to you.
Yeah.
Arjuna says that, I won't do what you say. Because in the 2nd chapter of Gita, first 2 shlokas are spoken by Bhagavan.
Mhm.
At the end of the 1st chapter, Arjuna says, I will not fight. He keeps his Gandiva bow down and sits down on the chariot. In the first 2 shlokas of 2nd chapter, Sri Bhagavan says, get up. You're a Kshatriya. You're not meant to sit down like this. You're standing on a Ranabhumi and nobody does this. It's certainly not befitting somebody like you. Maybe some arbitrary Kshatriya can do this, but you are Arjuna. You are the greatest among Kshatriya. You should not do this. Just get up. In 2 shlokas, he says this. In the next 7 shlokas, Arjuna says, no, I won't listen to you. I won't get up. He refuses. And in those 7 shlokas also, he says that I'm totally confused now. And I accept you as my guru. In the 8th or 9th sloka of 2nd chapter, he says that Shishyasteham Shadimam Tuam Prapannam. I am now your disciple, please instruct me. After saying this next sloka, he says, Krishna, I cannot fight this war. Already Krishna has said, get up and fight. And he's saying, you're my guru. After saying you're my guru, he says, no, I won't fight. So see the contradiction. So we accept somebody as guru, but we don't follow what he says. So he's representing us, our condition.
Yes. So another theory, like few of the Kahavachak say.
Close.
Yeah.
We'll close the class and then we
Okay.
will continue after the class discussion. Because there are some people online also.
Yeah, this is some chat.
Chat was just good evening.
Okay.
Okay. So online participants, I'm sorry that we were completely lost in the Mohamaya of the offline. And we could not attend to you. Are you still there?
For the next question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Are you still there?
Sir,
Yes,
sir,
sir.
sir, I'm there, sir. I'm listening. Very
Yes,
interesting
Ashish.
conversation, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So shall I close the class? Would you like to say anything before I close?
Sir, two things, sir. So number one, this slok, the one that you're displaying on the screen right now, I had read it for the first time in class 7,
So
sir.
now I'm not able to hear them.
Connect. So shall I connect the Bluetooth?
No, maybe I'm not able to hear their voice.
You can put it on the chat. So we can tell them.
They can hear, sir.
They can hear us. Yeah, they can put it on the chat.
Just give me 1 minute. Let me just.
I think it got powered off because
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah. It says paired, but it's not connected. Okay, we'll close the class and then later on you can call me or we can talk separately. Let me go to the final prayer that we have. You can see, right?
Yes, sir.
Om Tat Vishno Paramam Padagum Sada Pashyanti Surayah Divi Vachakshuratatam Tad Vipraso Vipanyavo Jagruvagum Sassamindhate Vishno Yat Paramam Padam Paryaptya Anantarayaya Sarvastamotiratra Uttamamahadbhavati Sarvasyaptyai Sarvasya Jityai Sarvameva Tena Apnoti Sarvam Jayati. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Pranam everyone. Punar Milama.